I wanted to talk about a topic that I believe is far too under-discussed among teams. I'm talking about a factor that affects your business every day, that affects every decision that you make, that affects every interaction that you have with clients or with your team members, and is actually influential in every single thing that you do in your business. And if I describe it like this, most people can't even think of what it is I'm talking about. And that's what I mean. This is the single most important factor that people don't talk enough about in business success. And I'll give you an example. This is the time of year when the March Madness basketball is happening, and some teams are, moving forward in a very exciting way, and some teams lose. And sometimes those teams that lose, they end up firing the coach and they bring in another coach. Very common this time of year. And here in the New York area, St. John's University, which has a pretty storied history of being a good basketball school, has fallen on hard times the last 20 years. And they just announced a couple of days ago that they're going to hire Rick Pitino. Rick Pitino is one of the all-time most successful coaches ever in college basketball. And he's the only one who's ever won 2 national championships at 2 different schools. And so he's got the goods, the track record. And that's why they hired him, of course. But here's the point. When they interviewed him, when he made his first announcement that he was going to take this job, someone asked him, what is it that you need to be successful at this new school? He didn't say, I need better players. He didn't say, I need better locker room and practice facilities. He didn't say, I need a great relationship with the athletic department head and the rest of the athletic team. What he said was, I need a better culture. And he said, I am going to focus on building culture at this university. And it's a word that you hear a lot when new coaches take over. And so what we're going to be talking about today is this concept of culture as applied to, obviously, to the business setting. As you probably can guess, anytime human beings get together, a culture develops. You can have a culture in your family. You have a culture in your team. You can have a culture in a large corporate organization. You can even have different cultures in different departments of a large corporation. But anywhere people end up working together or living together, culture develops. And the culture of the space that we're working in is a key influencer in our success overall. I'm sure you've probably been somewhere in your life where the people that you were working with or living with was not a good culture. It's not a happy place to be, and it's probably not a successful place to be. And you may have been lucky enough to be in a place at another time in your life where the culture was awesome. And it probably led to a positive experience for you, and probably a good experience of teamwork and collaboration and communication and all that stuff. Is that true? Yeah. So the question then is, how do we think about culture for our teams? So I'd like to ask you, if I were to ask everybody on your team, what would be 1 or 2 words that describe the culture of your team? Do you think that they would all use the same words, or they would probably say things differently in their own unique way? What would you say, Jessica?
Differently.
Differently. Well, why do you suppose they would say that? Because they're all on the same team. Why do you think that they would have a different words that they would use to describe it?
Maybe based on what's most important to them. I do have, posted, and it's a whiteboard where, and it's just my husband and I, and then we've been trying to hire an assistant, which is why we're still here with coaching and everything.
Yep.
But it's written on there, team values, what's important to us, what our tagline is, even reflects culture and all of that. But I think still people approach things with what's most important to them, that what their paradigm is. And maybe I haven't communicated enough culture awareness on a regular basis, maybe through activities or acknowledgements or something. Having it on a whiteboard is probably not sufficient.
Got it. Yep. So yes, that's correct. It's not sufficient, but it's better than nothing. It's certainly better than nothing, because a lot of people, you don't even have it on a whiteboard. So, culture is, in a sense, you might say culture is like the source of unified action. That is, when people have a certain culture that they share, how they should work together, what are the right things to focus on, all that stuff is understood. And if you plan a culture effectively as a leader, then you can lead the team towards the success that you're looking for. If I were to ask you and your husband, do you both think that you have the perfect culture right now on the team? Would you think you'd both say yes or no?
He's in his office on the other side. To ask him. Um, I think we would agree that we have similar thoughts about the culture, and even if we're not affecting things perfectly, we are striving toward the same things.
Yep.
And I have a different business background than he does, and so even for the minor things, a concept that I now realize is part of our culture in listening to you speak is always thinking of how whatever you say, write, send, whatever, even the way you order things, people's names, how that is understood and perceived by the other side.
Yeah.
Whoever it is. And so when you say source of unified action, to me, that's culture. I understand that now as culture because our actions are framed with providing value, I guess.
Correct. Correct. And it goes even far beyond that. The clothes you wear are part of your culture. The clothes you choose to put on in front of clients say something about the culture of your team. Nice. Love that. All right. New York City. Good for you. And of course, whether you show up on time or not, that's a matter of culture. Whether you consider anything outside the direct requirements of the transaction or not, also is something about the culture of your team and how you handle clients. What you project in your marketing for yourself, the values that, we offer clients this, this, and this, that's also saying something about your culture. So there's almost nothing in your activities that isn't related to or affected by culture. What I find, unfortunately, is that most teams develop culture by accident or by unconscious action. That is, culture springs up, but we haven't really thought about what kind of culture is best suited to helping us achieve our goals. And so when you get people together, if you allow each person to kind of like upload themselves to the culture, everyone will upload themselves in a unique way. You've got 10 different people, you're going to have 10 different people uploading 10 different cultures. And of course, in that case, you're not a team. Right. And so part of developing culture means asking yourself, what is it that we need to have as a framework for our team to help us excel? It's not just about structure. It's not just about tools. It's not just about processes. It's about what's the very nature of our relationships together and how do we do things together. And so it requires us to kind of think deeply about who we are and what it is we're trying to do here. It's not just about helping people buy and sell homes. It's how we want to help them buy and sell homes, right? I mean, that's really the crux of it. And what separates one particular real estate team from another is the culture of the team. It is the values that they have. It's the beliefs that they have about how to serve people and what their idea of service means, or what their idea of professionalism means, or what their idea of support means. And of course, everybody comes down on that a little bit differently, but most teams don't talk about it. They kind of leave it up to each person on the team to figure out what it is, how we define service, or how we define support, or how we define professionalism, for example. And so if that's all we do, we just leave it up to everybody to define it themselves or interpret it themselves, we're never going to be on the same page. Let me ask you, Jessica, and I'd like to ask Ryan. Ryan, can you please refresh my memory? How many people are on your team?
Right now, David, it's just one other gentleman. We've been together for about 4 years, but when we joined Compass, we were expanding, but I realized very quickly, coming off a very successful year, then last year going backwards, that until I got my shop in order, as we've discussed in the past, it wasn't fair to me to bring other people on. So, but as we're moving forward, and this year is slowly picking back up, my ultimate goal is, because my partner and team member, really, I'm the team lead, but he may do it for another year. He may do it for 4 years. So I'm looking to build the future. So long-winded answer to answer your question is really, I'm a team one in mindset at the moment.
Okay, got it. No worries. So I'd like to share some things with you today that might not all be relevant immediately if you don't have a lot of people on the team. On the other hand, the concepts that I wanted to share today and next time really do apply to anyone who's leading a team, even if you're just leading yourself. So I have no hesitation to share these slides because I think they're just as valid in that particular case. So what I'll ask both of you to do is just think about how this relates to you, even though you have a smaller team, because culture still exists. Culture can exist at many different scales. The largest scale might be something we might call international regional. So we might say something like Asian cultures tend to be very family oriented. Or we might say European cultures tend to be wine and cheese producing cultures, right? You can go around Europe, many different countries, and you see they're all producing various kinds of wine, producing various kinds of cheese, right? That's an international regional idea. Then you've got national culture. But even within national culture, you might have regions, right? So Florida is a little different from New York City, a little bit different from Texas, a little bit different from the Pacific Northwest, something like that. And if you go smaller and smaller, you come down to small levels of teams like a department in a business, or a small business itself with 3 employees, or a family. And if you bring it down to the smallest level, it's actually the culture of one. As an individual person, you have a certain view on the world. You have certain ideas about what you value, what's important to you. You have certain ideas about what you believe about the people around you. And these things influence the choices that you make to open your own business and how to run your own business. And so when 2 people come together, then what we're talking about is 2 different personal cultures coming together. And can we come together in a way that's a 1 + 1 = 3 kind of an environment? Or is it 1 + 1 = conflict? Right? And of course, anytime you team up with any other human being, whether it's a marriage or business partner or whatever, it could be wonderful, it could be awful. And everybody wants the wonderful part. So we're going to talk a little bit this morning about what culture is and what are some of the things you need to be thinking about as you consider adding more people to the team, or you consider projecting your sense of business to potential clients. So let me pull this up. So the first question is, what is culture? And the simple answer to that is, it's how we do things around here. But if you ask cultural anthropologists what culture is, they're going to say this. They're going to say that culture is a pattern of thinking and a pattern of actions and behaviors that people share who live together or work together. And so whether this is a business or it's a family, any grouping of people, could be a church group, it doesn't really matter. There's a certain commonality of thought in there and a certain commonality in action that spans across the people who are involved. Now, this is also true for a single person, right? We all have our own patterns of thought. We all have our own patterns of action or behaviors. But when you talk about multiple people, what you're saying is these actions and behaviors tend to be predictable across that particular group. So you could say people on the political right have a certain way of thinking. People on the political left have a certain way of thinking. Or people in a given family have certain actions. Maybe they all play sports or something like that. In business, you might have a group of people who believe that it's important to always go the extra mile, and so they do. You might have other people who don't, and that's okay. It's just different ideas. It's a different perspective on the world. A common way to say this is how we do things around here. That's what culture is. The question is it conscious or unconscious? In other words, if you're not talking about it regularly, it's unconscious. Now, where does culture come from? Well, there's several areas, but there's 3 that you can think about as you think forward about the business. First is, what's your mindset? What is it that you value as a human being in the business? What is it that you would call your business values or your business beliefs? What is it that you believe about the marketplace, about clients, about homes in general? Is a home just a building, or is it a place where you make memories, right? These ideas really differ from person to person. And so our mindset that we carry with us every day is a key contributor to the culture that develops. Second is structure. If you decide, okay, I want to run a business and here are the roles that I'm going to have people play, then that's going to affect how the culture develops. For example, if you tend to be understaffed and you have 3 people doing the work of 5, Well, everybody's harried, everybody's overwhelmed. Maybe they get a little snappy and abrupt with each other, right? All that stuff is contributing to the culture. It's very easy to do. On the other hand, maybe you grow the team a little bit bigger and everybody has a very narrow role. You're going to be handling only these transaction ops kind of pieces, and you're only going to be handling staging, and you're only going to be handling whatever. That contributes to a different dynamic in how we work together. The actions and behaviors that we engage in would be different with a different structure. And finally, this is the important one, is actions and behaviors. What are the actions that we're taking on a regular basis that contribute to the day-to-day business that we do? And that comes out of mindset. Mindset links directly to actions and behaviors. And so when you're talking about actions and behaviors, you can't leave out the mindset piece. So if you're going to develop a culture with consciousness, you need to say, what's my mindset? What's the ideal structure for us here? And what are the ideal actions and behaviors for us to be engaging in on a regular basis? It's not just saying, let's use the compass tools. Let's have, good process. That's true. But it's more like, do you make that extra call? If you find out there's a problem with a client at 7 p.m. at night, do you wait till the next morning to call, or do you call at that moment? Or if there's a potential issue in the negotiation, are you going to inform the client or not inform the client? Right? There's lots of little decisions that we make all along the way that are a reflection of our mindset about what's proper for business, our beliefs about it, and the actions that naturally follow. So this is where culture comes from. And so all of us are contributing to this every day because our mindset is coming out. Our actions are coming out, and we might make changes from time to time in structure. Why does culture matter? Well, culture is, I said before, it's one of the most important things that nobody ever talks about. Why? Well, for one thing, culture has a huge influence on how we collaborate, how well we collaborate, and how well we team. If I were to ask you, do you care about collaboration and teamwork? Would you say yes or no, Jessica? Yes. How about predictable, consistent delivery of value? When you have multiple people on a team and you have different ideas about how to deliver value to clients, naturally, it's going to come out differently. If you care about a predictable delivery of high standards of value, then you must care about the culture of your team. If you're thinking about your brand, where does your brand come from? Well, your brand is really an external vision or an external expression of how you do business, right? You say, we're fun. That's our main thing around here. We're the fun real estate agents, or, we're very professional, or we're knowledgeable and experienced, right? These things that come out as part of your brand are really just a matter of your culture. And finally, happy staff. As you bring people on, if they're going to be happy, they're probably going to do better work for your clients than if they weren't. And from a leadership point of view, if you're working with people and the people are not happy to be working with you, that's a big problem. In fact, of course, it leads to, people leaving. You got retention issues. There's a lot of teams out there that, people will just be leaving continuously. And when I see that, what I'm seeing is people that are not happy with the way the leader is running the team. Another way to say it is they're not happy with the experience of the culture that they're having. And correct. Thank you, Jessica. Yep. Athleisure. Right. Okay. So next, a couple of examples of culture. So I hear all kinds of things from different clients, and here's some of the things that I've heard. And I only list this because I want you to recognize that culture penetrates every area of your business. I've heard from teams that the agents don't show up at the meetings, even though the team leader would like them to be there. I've heard people have very organized and stratified gifting programs. Some people feel like, our lowest price clients and our highest price clients should all get the same service. I've heard others say the opposite. If you're at this price point, we're going to give you this, this, and this. If you're at this price point, we'll still give you good service, but we might not give you something else. Team leader does all the talking at meetings. That's absolutely a cultural issue on some teams. Is it best? I don't know, but do we ever think about it? Our team members sometimes blame each other. Did you ever have people pointing fingers at somebody else on the team? Well, it's not my fault. It's his fault, her fault. That's a cultural issue. Nobody knows who to go to, so they always come to me. This is a problem with folks who get larger teams. If they're not clear about roles and they're not clear about the cultural processes, the actions and behaviors we're talking about, they're always going to defer back to the team leader. And the team leaders often complain, I've got all these people that I have to handle all the time when I just brought them on so they could go out and do their work. But really, that's the fault of the leader. My agents think they can renegotiate our split at any time. Heard that one from many clients. And finally, agents depend on me too much to give them leads. So whether you give out leads or not is part of your culture. How much you expect from them, what it is their role is in producing value for the business is absolutely an element of culture. So all of these things are cultural elements. And of course, there's a million more. The only point here is if you're not thinking that culture touches every area of your business, you're missing the whole point of culture. Every decision you make is affected by your mindset. Every success or failure that you make is affected by your actions and behaviors. And so if culture is coming from mindset, structure, and actions and behaviors, you need to be looking at those things to think about what is ideal for me, what is ideal for us. Whether you're an individual person, whether you're working with one or two other folks, or whether you're working with 20 others. The biggest client that I have has about 35 people on the team. It's a big team, a couple of big teams that big. But the issues are still the same. What's our mindset? What's our structure? What's our action and behavior? And so being able to bring some conscious awareness to all that helps you build a culture and act from a culture that you've already decided is the ideal one for the success of your business. Now, I'm not here to say this culture is better than that culture. I'm not. It's your business. You have to decide what that is. But the point is the consciousness nature of it. You need to do it with thought and attention. So one of the key cultural elements is this concept of values. Now, I said before, mindset is values and beliefs. And so values and beliefs are key elements of who we are and how we see the world around us. If I were to ask you, what are the values that you have? This is a great thing that you could do together with your husband, Jessica, and Ryan. You could do this with any partner that you work with. Oh, good. You got some good notes there? Cool. So if I were to ask you, what are the values that underpin everything that you do in your business? You might list X number of values. You might say this, 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 and this. And if I ask you to ask your husband or your partner or whoever the other person is, what do you think the key values are for this particular business? And then see if they line up or not. If they don't, then you're just two individuals in parallel play. And, parallel play is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And we do, of course, want to have some space for individuality in business. But if you're talking about a team, what you're talking about is bringing diverse human beings together in a common cause with a common approach to that success. And at the core of that, one of the core pieces of that is values. So I'd like to just ask you guys to come off mute for just a minute. And if I ask you, what are values? What's your answer to that question? If I ask you to define values, what do you say values are?
So I'll start right. I'm not going to read this whole page, but I'm so grateful to you for describing what culture is and where it comes from and the different buckets, if you will, is a phrase I'm hearing a lot of term. Because I just brain dumped some stuff at one point, and it makes so much more sense in context to what you said. I have my first page here was, guiding principles and values. The first thing was, how to be positive. Well, how do you actually be positive? There's a whole page on how to be positive.
Yep.
But my page on guiding principles and values, positivity, abundance mindset, believing in something greater than yourself, love yourself enough to own your actions, choices, behaviors, and mindset, do the next right thing, things like that, be a go-giver. And it goes on.
Got it. So I'm hearing a lot of really good beliefs in there. When you say be a go-giver, or when you say do the next right thing, those are beliefs. And so belief is a little different from a value, and they're both really important. They're both at the core. And so we'll talk about beliefs later, but beliefs are at the core of any business. You think of the CEPs at Compass.
Okay.
Without ego, right?
Okay.
Be focused, right? Those are beliefs, right? What they're saying is we believe it's important for business when we collaborate without ego, right? What they're saying is we have a philosophical approach to business success here, and it's embodied in these principles. And so those CEPs are Compass's attempt to unite 30,000 agents around a common approach to business. Now, it's hard to do with 30,000 different people and 30,000 harried people, but that's Compass's perspective. They put a stake in the ground and they're saying what it means to be a Compass agent is to collaborate without ego, for example, right? Or be solution driven, for example, right? We're saying this is what makes us us. And it's what makes us different from Keller Williams and Coldwell Banker and everybody else.
So
right?
this,
Those places have a different philosophy about what's right for business. Sorry, go ahead, Jessica.
excuse me. So what I've written down here, this do the next right thing, that is, that's more of a way. So it's not a value. That is an action that allows somebody to be solutions driven.
Yep,
At least
I get
in
that.
the way we do things. So like
Yep.
if you're in a very tense negotiation, or you've got 3 people to call, everybody wants the answer they want simultaneously. There's panic, there's stuff, what do? You do the next right thing. And sometimes that's taking a step back. Sometimes it's breathing. Sometimes it's choosing who to call.
Right.
But I'm learning from you the different nuances and understandings of these words.
Right. So a value is a concept: professionalism, collaboration, innovation, fun. Those are concepts. A belief is usually an action or a perspective. And so if you put the phrase, "we believe it's good for business when," before any of those statements, it makes perfect sense. We believe it's good for business when we do the next right thing. Right? It doesn't matter what statement is that follows that. You're talking about a belief. You're talking about a point of view of how to do business. That's what a belief is. And so a belief is usually a phrase. It's usually 3 or 4 words, whereas a value is almost always 1 word. And it's a concept. And so values and beliefs together create a certain philosophical point of view about business success. And this is what defines and distinguishes one particular culture from another. What is it that's different between Keller Williams and Compass? Well, from the outside, maybe nobody would know. They're agents, they buy and sell houses, they do pretty much the same thing. They price it, they stage it, they negotiate for me, fine. Right? But from the inside, you know that there's a very different philosophical approach to business. Right? And it's beaten into you in a sense as you go through the training programs. And this is what makes one agency different from another. And so same thing in any business. What makes one real estate agent company different from another? From the client's point of view, they may not really know. They may catch glimpses of it in how you explain how you run the business and that's certain services that you offer or how you offer them. But they may not be able to put their finger on it and say, oh, this team is all about this, this, and this. But you need to know what that is. You need to understand what your values are, and you need to understand what your beliefs are. So I'm gonna pause here because we're almost out of time. Herson, I'm gonna skip this last step that we had planned for today because we don't have enough time for it. So I'd like to do that next week probably. What I'd like to do is ask each of you to consider a little bit what values you believe are the key words that underpin everything you do in the business. And I'm suggesting somewhere between 2 and 4 values words. And so you can look at what's on your website. You can look at other websites. You can think about your business. What would be 2 or 3 words that underpin everything you do, that are at the core of who you are as a person and how you want to run the business? And bring that to our next conversation, and we'll continue the conversation at that time. Can you do that, Jessica?
Yes. Yes. Thank you. This has been really
Can you
helpful.
do that, Ryan? All right, Ryan may have stepped out.
Sorry,
So,
David. Yes.
Yeah, give that some, Ryan, please. Oh, is that
No,
a
I'm
yes?
so sorry. You're right. I had to step out for an emergency call there real quick, so I missed that, but I'm still here.
All right, no worries. I'm suggesting that you and Jessica spend some time between now and the next call next Wednesday, thinking about the values words that you think best describe who you are and how you want to base your business, what your business is based on. What are the principles or concepts that underlie everything that you do? Those should be your values. We'll go further with it. I'll give you some things to help you think about it further, but I'd like to see what you come back with. And feel free to speak with any partners if you feel that they should be in a discussion like this, and see what they say. And come back next time with some list of 2 to 4 words that you feel are at the core of everything that you do. And then we'll continue the conversation from there.
Sounds great.
All right. Have a great day, everybody. Look forward to seeing you.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you.
Yep. All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, David. Take care.
Yep. Bye-bye.